What's good, guys? It's your boy King here from Team Victory Star, and today I'm here giving you guys a deck profile over what everybody really considers to be the best deck in format. And I'm going to have to agree with them on this one because this deck has been pretty much dominating a lot of the standard format tournaments this year. It's won both American regionals in Orlando and Fort Wayne for the standard format, and it's also taken first, second, third, and I believe fourth, as well as fifth in London Intercontinentals, which is pretty wild. And it also was pretty dominant in Dortmund. It didn't win in Dortmund, but it was pretty dominant. But yeah, today I'm here giving you guys a profile of my list. This is my personal list I've had built. I finally just got the last Fright Night Yveltal I needed to build the deck, so I figured why not profile it and show it to you guys. This is one of the other decks I've been considering for my local League Cups that are happening soon. I also may or may not be going to Georgia Regionals, so I may go to that. I'm not 100% sure. But if I do, I may or may not play this because I think it's standard, apparently, from what I've been told in my friend group. But anyways, though, I'm going to go ahead and jump on into the profile. So, we play 3 Yveltal EX. It's standard. Yveltal, Y Cyclone are 2 amazing attacks that this thing has. Yveltal does 20 plus 20 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon for a dark and a colorless, and then for a dark and a DCE. Y Cyclone does 90 damage, and you move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon, which is pretty cool. We also play 2 of the Fright Night Yveltal. This Yveltal has the ability Fright Night, which states that as long as it's in the active, your opponent or no tools in play have any effect as long as this Pokemon is in the active, which is a pretty unique ability. It means you're shutting off Fighting Fury Belts. It means you're shutting off Float Stones. It's a really, really great ability. We play a 2-2 Garb line. This helps you against a lot of matchups. A couple of them being Volcanion and Greninja. Both of those decks are really ability reliant to increase their damage output. And so Garbordor is really, really nice because we shut those off. So it's really, really good for that reason. And then to round out the list, we play 2 Shaman EX because it's usually standard. It's pretty good. On to our item lineup. I'm playing 1 Super Rod. The reason why I'm playing the Super Rod is it's slightly, it's nice against Houndoom, Bunnelby, which that deck has been popping up a lot. But it's mainly just in here for recovery in general. Throwing in extra Yveltal EXs or Yveltals, or even Garbodor pieces that you pitch away throughout a game, and your energy is really, really good. It gives you a little bit more value out of your max elixirs. If you play only like a couple of them in the early game, you play a Super Rod and then use the last 2 in like the middle to late game. It means you're getting more value out of your attackers because you're more likely to have plenty of attackers throughout the game, because there is some times when you just awkwardly prize like an Yveltal EX on a Fright Night Yveltal and you're only stuck with like 3 attackers for the game. And let's say you started with an Yveltal EX, so it's already awkward because you have to retreat out of it or else it just dies off. And you can either make the play to sacrifice the Yveltal or attach a Float Stone to it and retreat it, or like Olympia it or something. Well, if you choose to sacrifice it off, now Super Rod gives you the chance to recover it back, which is pretty nice in my opinion. I think it's a standard, really, to play it. A lot of lists have it, and that's honestly one of the 2 differences between my list and... I'm actually going to be comparing my list to Mahone, because I know Mahone's list pretty much card by card. And Pram's is very, very similar to mine, I believe, as well. I think he played a escape rope over a Super Rod, and then he cut the trainer's mouths for stuff. But 2 enhanced hammer, standard in the Yveltal now. At first in my opinion, it was kind of weird because I was like, why do you need to do that? You're losing damage with Yveltal that way. But you have Y Cyclone as an amazing attack, and it's also great to slow down your opponent just for detachment. And it's really, really good in the mirror. Like, really good. 2 Trainers Mail. I know it sounds weird to only play 2, but 2 Trainers Mail is just enough. It's consistency. It's just a card that can help you net your resources. And oftentimes, it's really cool playing 2 Trainers Mail because usually, even if you're playing like 3, you often find yourself Trainers Mailing for and seeing a Trainers Mail in the top 4. Well, that rarely happens with this deck, which is really, really cool because you're only playing 2 of them. So, that's kind of cool. 3 Float and 3 Fighting Fury Belt. I could see the argument to cut a Fighting Fury Belt from the list, but personally I like the 3 just for consistency. And it's also really, really nice against Greninja, in my opinion, because that means it takes a potential. Well, I mean, you're still getting a 3-hit KO, but it means you're living a giant water shuriken and a moonlight slash or something. If they did like Giovanni's scheme awkwardly, I just like it for the extra HP. The extra tad is nice though sometimes too. A pitch black spear of Yveltal with 170 HP is disgusting. It just sounds like really, really good. The 3 Float is for the Garbordor. Pretty simple. Also, some of your stuff in here is very, very fat and retreat. So that's why we play 3 Float. Standard 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Max Elixir, 4 Verse Seeker. You could cut an Elixir and maybe go down to 3 if you really wanted to. I personally like the 4 for consistency. 4 Ultra and 4 VS is standard. I don't really need to explain that, I don't think. On to our supporter count. We're playing 1 Olympia. Olympia is in here as a switch option. It also gives you some healing. You could cut PCL for it. Since I'm not playing Escape Rope in my list, I'm cool with playing Olympia because it covers both in a spot. It gives you a little bit of healing and it gives you your switch card for the game, which is pretty cool. I really like it. However, though, if you weren't playing Super Rod, I guess you could cut the Olympia and the Super Rod for an Escape Rope and a PCL, and then just do that if you want. PCL is really, really good for the mirror, but I think Olympia is more diverse throughout the entire game, which is why I'm playing it. Sorry about that. That was my dog. 1 Delinquent is really, really clutch. It bumps parallels, which is big in this format. Especially a lot of the mirrors. If you're the one that gets the first parallel down, it's good because you're limiting your bench to 3. Your opponent's not getting a whole lot of value, but at the same time, you have to be careful for your opponent to Delinquent. If they get the parallel down first, and they don't play around your Delinquent, then you can Delinquent them to 0 sometimes if they have like a 3 or less card hand. You can just Delinquent them to 0, and then they're just in top deck mode the entire game. If they hit their out, then it just sucks, but if they don't hit their out, then you just win because you can outplay your opponent with a 0 card hand that they have. The Flag Run is in here really for the mirror. It's really, really good. I personally like it a lot in this list. It's very, very nice. It leaves their Yveltal EXs on 0 energy. It leaves their Pitch Black Spear Yveltal with 0 energy. If you combo this with Enhanced Hammer, it's disgusting. It's a really good card. My advice would be to play it, definitely. I was tempted to cut it, but I think I'm going to keep it in just because the power that it brings. It's also nice against Volcanion because when they're trying to build up a Volcanion EX on the bench, or if they start like a Volcanion EX in the active and they're trying to build up energy on it, you just flag out their energy. And they're just like, well, like, they can't attack you. I guess you're going to get free 2 prizes because they can't retreat either. If they don't hit their Olympia or their ropes, and you're in a good position there. 2 Lysander is standard. 2N is, I think, standard. Some lists play 3. I believe Pram actually cut one of his training spells for an N, and the other one was for the rope, I think. I think that's what it was. I'm not 100% sure, though. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the 2N is good in my opinion. If you're expecting to play against a lot of Greninja, I would probably play 2, maybe. Personally, I just like Sycamoring or using a disruptive supporter like Delinquent or Flagrant or Lysander. I usually don't like ending in this hand. I mean, sure, it's nice to get you set up in the early games, but the majority of the time, I think that 2 could get you through a majority of games. If you want to cut the trainer spells for one of your trainer spells for an N, you can. I just personally don't see the point in playing one trainer spell, so if I were to cut one, I probably would end up cutting both. Just my opinion. 4 Sycamore is standard. The 2 parallel, I play 2 parallel. I don't play a reverse valley. I don't play a 3rd parallel like Mahone did because I'm playing Delinquent. If you weren't playing Delinquent, I would probably play a reverse valley in this spot because it's a counter stadium. And the extra 10 can be nice at some points, but I personally like Delinquent a little more. Delinquent's actually one of my top 5 favorite cards in the standard format right now. It's really, really good, in my opinion. But the 2 parallel is nice. It limits your bench to 3, which is really, really good. And against Volcanion, Greninja, even sometimes Vespiquen builds, you can limit their damage output so that way for Volcanion they have to do an extra. They may have to sacrifice an extra steam up in order to maybe KO you if you don't have Garb online. For Greninja, maybe an extra giant water shuriken if you don't have Garb online, which usually you do, but in case if you don't, it just makes it even harder for them to one-shot your stuff. And then for Vespiquen, you're eliminating the base damage. And so if they're attacking you with Vespiquen as opposed to like a Substrika, then they have to have 17 Pokemon to discard to KO you, or 21 of their discard if you have a Fighting Fury Belt because of Parallel, or they have to bump the stadium, I guess, either or. And then the energy count is pretty standard. I don't think this count will probably ever change. The 9 Dark and 4 DC is standard. DC makes it so that way you're skipping an extra attachment that you would usually have to attach. It's a great card. And then 9 Dark is pretty standard, personally. It's a little bit more, like 8 for instance. It's good to to hit it often enough with Max Elixir to get value out of it. And then to kind of wrap up the video, I'm going to talk about a couple tech cards you can play. The 2 really expandable spots I see in this list really are the 2 Trader's Mill slots and maybe Super Rod. Those would be the potential 3 cards that you could swap around with and play around with. But really, I think this is honestly the best way to build the deck. If I were to cut the Trader's Mills for stuff, I would probably play the Legendary Treasures promo Darkrai because it has Abyssal Sleep, I believe. For 2 Dark and a colorless, you do 80, and you put your the defending Pokemon as asleep, and they have to flip 2 coins instead of 1. If either of them are tails, they remain asleep. It was a card that Yingling Chun played in his list, in which he pretty much. And he used that, and his list got like 35 points before cut. So, like, he was amazing. Like, he had just every matchup he wanted ever, I guess, and just bodied them all because he's a god. But yeah, I think the 2 Trainers Mail, I would probably cut 1 for the Darkrai, and I probably would cut the other one either for a 3rd N, an Escape Rope, or a 10th Dark. I know it sounds insane. The 10 Dark, though, would mean that you're pretty much almost hitting your Max Elixirs, like 75% of the time. You're hitting usually 3 of the 4 of them if you're playing like more than 9, I think, in a battle. Or, let me rephrase that, not like 75, more like 65% of the time probably. Just because you're playing higher counts of basic energy, it's really, really good. It also is good against disruption decks because it means you're having more energy to draw into in order to actually attack against disruption stuff like Houndoom and stuff. But there you guys go. That's the list. I'm going to end off here, though. Thank you all for watching. If you guys enjoyed, please give it a like, favorite, rating, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.